I want to ask you, so how do you go from, because, one of the things I speak to a lot of people about is platforms. So many people, they see Launch Good and other projects like it, and this word is on their mind, entrepreneurs. I want to create a platform. And for me, I'm like, whoa, platform is a big thing. You got 2 different sides you're playing with, sometimes 3, all of this kind of thing. How do you go from actually being a company that does something successful, like you did with Zainab and Nadine, and actually transform it to a real platform?
So one thing is it's going to take time, right? Because you have to earn trust, you have to earn credibility. Even after all this time and all this success, we still get people that don't trust us, right? I mean, I definitely think we're only about 1% of penetrating our market. I remember, so we launched LaunchGood in roughly October of 2013. Mm-hmm. Our worst month ever as a company was October of 2014. Okay. Right? It was like, I think that month we only had 4 projects live. And so it's this weird thing where it's like, well, is this going to work? Like a year later, we're actually at our lowest point, right? And it really makes you question, like, will this succeed? And you have to you really have to be diligent and gritty, determined. I'm very fortunate that my mother herself is a successful entrepreneur, and I've seen her go up and down with her company. And her advice to me, when I started working was, all my startups, I have to give them 3 years. I won't know until 3 years are through whether it really is going to make it or not. Okay. So that film startup I did, when I started, the first year was amazing. Like, we were crushing it. But by the 3rd year, it was like, all right, we're dead, And LaunchGood was kind of the other ways. Like, initially, it was like very rocky start. Ramadan, of course, was good. We had a couple good months, but then we hit that low point. But there was something, you could just feel it. It was like this idea, it felt, the word I like to use is pregnant. Like, it was like ready. Like, the world was ready for LaunchGood. It just didn't know it yet. And by the end of our 2nd year, we could see, okay, this is really, it's got some traction. Like, the whole first year, our total revenue was $30,000. Total revenue for the whole company, $30,000. But by the end of the year, it's like 90,000. We're like, oh, that's triple, right? Like, if we could keep this going, it's going to be really good, And then by the end of our 3rd year, we were at like 220,000, I think it was. So that was when we're like, okay, it's on the right trajectory now. But you really do need that patience to see how it's going to turn out.
Okay. So patience is one thing, right? If I have an idea of a platform, is it true that there's no way it's going to become a proper platform unless I get some sort of funding? Like, I got the patience, the idea is good. Will I definitely need funding to make a platform great?
That's a tough question. You definitely need some funding if you cannot program it yourself, or you don't have like a co-founder or someone on the team who can do the programming. That's unquestionable. And we had to. We got basically $10,000 angel investment. That's all I could do. Wow, okay. But, actually a couple of years later, we ended up buying that angel investor out. So we own the platform completely now.
Amazing.
If I did it again now, I might raise more money and hire better developers and try to get off a little faster. But I think for us at that time, it was the right way. Other than that, I think money is totally overrated. Totally. Like, if you have a great mission, one of your jobs as a CEO is to build teams, right? That's what I mentioned. You asked me, what is leadership? It's like create a vision, inspire confidence, and build a team towards that goal, right? I find I'm always recruiting for LaunchGood, permanently recruiting. And you can find incredible talent that's willing to work for free or at a steep discount if they really believe in what you're doing, and they can see that one day, could become a career for themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you don't have a lot of money, it's good because it forces you to make smart decisions.
Yeah.
Like going back to my film analogy, our creative director, Sultan Sharif, he actually preferred shooting on film as opposed to digital. like that real film. And his reasoning was, listen, this film costs a lot of money. So every shot I'm going to do has to count.
Wow.
So I'm going to plan really, really well. Whereas, like, you know how it is with your iPhone. I mean, you just take whatever, or your Samsung, whatever it is. Yeah, take whatever it is. And then, you know, so, but if you know, like, hey, you only got 30 shots, you're going to do it really carefully. And that's kind of how it is. That's that thought process of like, okay, we have very limited resources. Where do we invest it? It's really going to force an entrepreneur to think deeply, like what's the core of their business and what's just ancillary. Because a lot of people make mistakes. They like build stuff that users don't want. That's you know, and if you keep doing that, you're going to just ruin your product ultimately. You got to figure out what is the core that people want and really double down on that. And actually, I'll give you a quick example. Even with LaunchGood, we thought there was a big opportunity to change the game with fundraising dinners. I assume you guys in UK do a lot of fundraising dinners.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, and they're kind of getting old and tired and stale, and you got to fill out these cards and like bring a checkbook. Well, who's a checkbook? And so we're like, okay, we came up with this whole system. It is a package. Actually, we'd send like a Wi-Fi hotspot out and credit card readers and like all this stuff. And we thought it was so cool. And a few users also thought it's cool, but the majority of people doing fundraising dinners, they're old school. They have their way of doing things. They just want to do it that way. And so very quickly, like we ended up not investing further in that product and just really doubling down on just the online platform, helping people do their online fundraising. And that was a really smart decision. Now, if we had unlimited resources, we might have like hired a whole team and like spent years trying to push this whole dinner model, and ultimately it would have just been a distraction.
So was it the failure of the dinner model or the success of certain campaigns that made you feel this is the way to go?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you could see that. I think especially with, I mean, it's a combination, the failure of the dinner model, but also I remember our first Ramadan, there was like this big spike. Like, I mean, I guess our activity grew like 10x.
Wow, okay.
Like, whoa, like this actually really does have an opportunity. And I think that gave us a lot of confidence to keep building a platform because we could see there was a demand for it if the conditions were right.